Hi everyone, today I'm going to share with you a very special recipe that has been a tradition in my husband's family for many, many years. His grandmother used to make what they came to know as frog's belly. Now you might be wondering what on earth frog's belly is. Well, it's really Spanish cream. As we do in Australia, we love to give things nicknames. So this is basically a custard that's had gelatin added to it and meringue, and it's whipped together, and the jelly layer separates on the bottom and you get a beautiful creamy meringue filling on top. So this is the original recipe, handwritten by my husband's grandmother. Isn't that beautiful? But quite hard to decipher because back then they only used to use things like heaped tablespoons and teacups as measurements and things like that. So I have actually trialed this recipe quite a few years in a row, and I've got it down to a fine art where we end up with a beautiful dish like this, and I hope you enjoy it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add a big heaped tablespoon of gelatin to 1 cup of milk. We're going to set that aside while we make the rest of our recipe. Now, this is just an ordinary tablespoon and it was nice and heaped as per the recipe that Nan has left us. So now we're going to give it a stir, and then we're just going to set that aside while we make the rest of our custard and other goodies that go in this recipe. It's so simple and easy to make. So let's just pop that to one side. So now we've got to separate our eggs. So we're going to pop the egg whites into a scrupulously clean glass bowl or plastic bowl, whatever you're using. I like to use glass. And the egg yolks are going to go into our pot. Now, if you're worried about any egg yolk going in there, do it into a separate bowl first so that you don't have any egg yolk going in there and ruining the meringue that we're going to need to beat. So let's just separate our eggs. So now we're going to just add the sugar to our egg yolks into the pot and give it a good stir. And just keep stirring with your whisk until all of that egg yolk has combined with the sugar. So it started to change consistency there. And now we're going to add our 2 cups of milk to that. So you can just put it all in there at the same time. So this is basically a custard that we're making here. So give that a good stir. And now we're going to heat it very, very gently on the stovetop. Now the key with custard is to never leave it unattended and to continually stir. So make sure that you don't go off and do something else while you're making this. You really need to stay on the job, but it doesn't take too long. So we want to bring the temperature of this mixture up slowly to a boil, and then what we're going to do is take it off the heat and we're going to add our gelatin mixture that has been soaking in the milk. So it's just starting to come to the boil now. So we don't want it to boil for too long, so the minute it starts rolling, that's when we take it off the heat. Okay, here we go. So now we turn the heat off. And so now it's time for us to add our gelatin that has been soaking in the milk. And just give that a really good stir. And now we're going to add the pulp of 6 passion fruit, or you could use a small tin. I've got the size of the small tin in the recipe notes. So pop that in there and give it another good stir. And now we're just going to let that sit aside to cool while we whip our meringue. So now what we're going to do is beat our 3 egg whites until they have stiff peaks, and just adding a pinch of salt there just to help stabilise the mixture. Okay, so our egg whites are nice and stiff, and now it's time to add it to the custard. So ordinarily when you're making Spanish cream, you would wait for this custard mixture to cool, but in Australia we are a little bit impatient, and so this is how the name Frog's Belly came to be in our family, because you add the egg white to the mixture while it's hot, and what happens is it separates to make this really cool jelly base with a beautiful custardy meringue on top. So we're going to stick with our family tradition and we're going to make it our Australian way. So we're going to just very gently mix in our whipped meringue here into our mixture. So just a little bit at a time because we don't want to knock any air out of it. So we're just going to pop a little bit in at a time, give it a stir, and then we're going to add the rest. Now, I've got to be honest with you, the recipe says fold it in gently, but over the years, I've gotten quite brutal with it, and I've really given it a good swirl because I really wasn't sure how this mixture was supposed to come together because I was going off that handwritten recipe. So even though I sort of say be gentle, if you really want to get that meringue whipped through, you're going to have to give it a little bit of a beating. So don't be afraid to make sure that whole mixture is really whipped through. And then we've got to get Nan's special bowl. And every year that I make this recipe, it always freaks me out because this amount of Spanish cream or frog's belly fills this bowl to the very brim, and it always makes me worry every single year whether it's actually going to all fit in here. And without fail, every single year it does. So this year I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to pour it straight in there and you'll see what I mean. Okay, here we go. This is the bit where I get very nervous, but it's never ever overflowed. So you've got to trust Nans because they know what they're doing. Okay, so now I'm going to pop this in the fridge, and you can already start to see that that separation has started to begin already along the line there. You've got a little separation of the jelly starting to form on the bottom with our beautiful creamy custardy meringue on top. So I'll pop this in the fridge and I'll come back and show you what it looks like once it's set. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you could hit the like button below. And if you would like to see more of my recipes, then make sure you hit subscribe so that you get notified as soon as they're released. So until then, I'll see you in the next video.